This video is to demo the Verkas HMI environment for creating an industrial user interface. So Verkas helps controls engineers turn a machine specification into an HMI prototype. This is typically a process that takes a good chunk of time of building, and it can be rather tedious. And while LLMs and things like that have added a lot of automation to code generation, the industrial side of UI, which I'll be calling an HMI because that's what it's called in the industry, is still a very manual process. So I will demo what this can do now, what Verkas can do. First thing is you'll see this is a basic environment. It's powered by GPT 5.6. You have a chat bar where you can work in. You also have a project tree. What we're going to be doing is we're going to create a new project. So we will come on in and we will go over to my documents folder and we will make a new folder. So once we have created the folder, you will see that we are making a new HMI project, and you can start with source material or you can build it manually. What we're going to do is we're going to use the import functionality here so we can not type in everything we're trying to do. And I have a spec. It's a tank fill and drain control system specification here that we're going to generate from. So once we have hit the import button, you can see the specification control narrative is totally populated. And we're going to analyze that with ChatGPT, or at least with GPT 5.6 that is underpinning this app right now. So this takes a couple minutes to generate. So we're going to pause the video here for a second. Now that the specification has been analyzed by AI, we are brought into a review section here. So now you will see the system has been summarized, and everything from that specification is getting populated into some easy to view tiles. These tiles show you how many control areas there are, what equipment is contained within them, the alarms and tags. That's like the fault conditions and variables that are critical to this project, and the operation modes. And you can click on each of these tiles and you can see it'll tell you what the control area is. It'll tell you what the equipment is and why it's there. It'll show you the alarms and the tags and what type of data type they are. It's a bool, or what it might be. Now, and then the operation, it'll tell you the different types of modes. All of this is based on the spec that we just ingested. And it'll give kind of a system flow based on how things function. So the fill valve will fill the storage tank, and then the storage tank will get drained by the drain pump. And at the bottom here, you can type in, and this is still powered by GPT 5.6. You can type in here and make call outs, corrections, or you can even ask it questions, things like that. Now, if it all looks good, which I think it does, it will take you into the next screen here, or the next part of the workflow. And so then it's going to ask if this is the right HMI organization. And based on the scope of the spec and how many items are in this system and what it seems like the system needs, you'll be given a proposal. And you'll be given a proposal based on a very standard type of user interface for an HMI. So typically there's a header, and this header can have all different kinds of things, but it almost always has the system name and the clock, and if there's an alarm present. It sometimes has like user levels, or if it's actually connected out to anything, if it's running a specific recipe or job. So it'll populate the header based on your spec on what it thinks you need. It'll tell you what it thinks you should have in terms of your screens. In this case, it thinks we should have a main screen, a control screen, and an alarm screen. And off of those, it thinks a system overview and tank fill and drain off of the main, and same for the controls where you can manually control the system. So it's telling us that the footer should be our navigation and have these screens. And it's telling us what these screens are going to be all about here. System overview, tank fill and drain controls, tank fill and drain alarms. kind of all the things you think you might need. And then now here at the bottom, you can also add other screens. Now, for a more complex system, you might want trending or diagnostics or an event log or settings. And in this case, I don't want to add any of those screens, but if I did, I would check on it and I would come down and hit this regenerate button and it would regenerate these things for me. And I would be able to have more screens in the project. So if I'm happy with how all that looks, I will come on over here to this final confirmation and it'll tell me, hey, I'm going to make 33 screens with 38 widgets, 3 navigation links, and it's ready to generate. There's no further reviews needed. So I'm going to approve this framework. I think it looks great. And I'll generate the approved screens. And you see, now it takes me in here and I have a instant prototype of my HMI. In this case, I have a fill path with a valve coming into my tank and I have a pipe coming out with a pump. I can see the tank level. I can manually come in here and I can see that this is the overview of the storage tank. And it's got the tank level transmitter because it's displaying a percent how full it is. And we can look over and around here. And we also have a screen that will show manual controls. You can start and stop the system and reset it. You can open the valves. You can control the pump. These are things you could do in a manual mode on a typical industrial system, and it has some display of what's actually happening here. And it lets you pick the mode, auto, manual, off, things like that. And then lastly, you'll have an alarm page. And so this is not live, obviously. It's not currently connected to a system. It's just prototyping and building this HMI first pass. So there's no alarms present in this, but it will have this screen made. So that gives us the entirety of what we would need for this simple project nearly instantly. The last thing that we can do is we can do things like we can use our chat system here to make changes or add things here. So we could say things like, let's make like add one more tank to the screen. And it'll use the MCP tools underneath to create the tank. The last thing that I want to share, and then we'll be done, is you still have the ability to use this like a normal HMI editor. You have a widgets tray over here, and you can drag and drop in things like a tank, valve, anything. You still have the ability to do everything you normally would, the way you normally would in a typical industrial IDE, where you would drag and drop and bind tags and put in the different artifacts where you need. But you also have the ability to do all of these tasks from the MCP tools, and you should ideally not be using them very much at all because the spec will be ingested and it should generate on first pass 95% of what you need for your visualization in your HMI.